Anthony, it's great to meet you and a pleasure to be here at Headcorn today. How are you?
I'm very well, yeah.
Good.
We've flown a couple of Spitfire trips this morning, so had a good day, and I think we might be flying again now. So
finally the weather's cheered up.
It looks a bit brighter out there, doesn't it?
It does look a bit brighter. It's great. So the Spitfire, obviously an incredible plane. What is it about the Spitfire that you love?
I think the Spitfire just ticks every box that there is going. You know, foremost it was there back in 1940, you know, when the country needed a modern fighter that was, going to hold off an invasion that was imminent. And, you know, the Spitfire, along with the Hurricane as well, it has to be said, but these two aircraft were there in our darkest hour, and they produced the goods. And, it's a vital bit of our history without a doubt. I think you then couple it with the fact that it's, in my opinion, the most beautiful aircraft ever built. And it flies so perfectly. You just about tick every box with an aircraft, and it is an icon. You know, and
really
to fly a Spitfire, you know, I can remember the first time thinking, you know, what would it be like? And it was everything and more. You know, it is just an extraordinary bit of machinery.
It really is, and it was great to see it today in action in the sky, and it just looked incredible and great to see you flying as well.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
amazing. So prior to working at Aero Legends, obviously you were in the RAF as a pilot. So what made you want to become a pilot in the RAF?
I was talking to another chap about this earlier, and I genuinely cannot remember when I first wanted to be a pilot in the RAF. So I think all my life, you know, from 3 months old, I must have wanted to do it. You know, it's quite a standard story. I made airfix kits as a little lad. I just loved flying. I watched all the movies, and as soon as I could, I joined the cadets. So lucky I was awarded a flying scholarship when I was 17. That gave me 30 hours free flying.
Amazing.
And at one time in Headcorn, I must have landed a little Piper Tomahawk in 1982 here on my own on a solo cross country. And then literally from A levels, I joined the RAF straight in, and always wanted to go fast jet, you know, to be a fighter pilot. That was the ambition, and I was so lucky. I did okay on pilot training, went Phantoms, and then flew for 30 years.
Amazing. What is your highlight of being a pilot in the RAF? What's the best bit?
Been so many. I love flying operationally. I flew the Phantom, the Tornado F3, and I actually did an exchange with the F-16, an American jet, but flying with the Dutch Air Force, which was great fun. And then when I came back from that, I got into the display world. So I was the display pilot for the Tornado F3 back in 99 and 2000. And I guess the highlights really then, I always thought the exchange was going to be the ultimate, although I love flying the Phantom and the Tornado. But it then just got better and better, and it was quite extraordinary. From the Tornado F3, I then got the Red Arrows, which was just fantastic. It's just such brilliant flying, you know, and you're part of a close-knit team, and you're an ambassador for your country. You know, you go around the world, and it's brilliant. It's as good as it looks. It's just absolutely fabulous flying. And then straight from the Red Arrows, I was again incredibly fortunate. I went, literally had a weekend off and went to the Eurofighter Typhoon, which was the new jet at the time. This was back in 2004, and I was the 11th RAF pilot to fly the Typhoon. So I was right in at the beginning of the Typhoon program. So somehow I managed to become the first pilot in the world to get 1,000 hours on the Typhoon.
That's
and
incredible.
and then during that time So whilst flying the Typhoon, I got selected to fly with the Battle of Britain Memorial flight, so the Spitfires and Hurricanes. So it's been just the most amazing RAF career, and you know, if half of it had been that good, I wouldn't have believed it. So I genuinely believe it's just been such a lucky career that I've had, and then got into Spitfire flying, and obviously flying now for Aero Legends. So yeah, very lucky.
Amazing. What's your favourite plane to fly?
Easy, Spitfire. Yeah, that's
of course.
And that is it's as we talked about earlier. It is, if you have to put one aircraft in your logbook, you know, it is extraordinary, and it's got this quality. I don't know what it is. You know, I hate sort of saying this, but there would be times when I first started flying the Hurricanes and the Spitfires, one of the old boys said, "Have you become a Spitfire snob yet?" And I went, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You'll know what I mean." And you know, literally within a year, when we were sort of divvying up the trips and we were sharing the Hurricane and the Spitfire, and if it wasn't fair, there's 5 trips. It's like, well, can I have 3 in the Spit? And it was just, it sounds like, you know, you're a sport child, but there is something about that aircraft that you just want to fly more. And yeah, it's without doubt the highlight of my career is the Spitfire.
Amazing. So being a Red Arrow, I mean, amazing. What was it really like?
You know, it's a great job. I mean, you're part of an incredibly close-knit team. The show is just a rehearse show that you practice and practice and practice, and you know, you definitely learn stepping stones. So you don't go straight into a 9-chip. You know, you'll do first half manoeuvring, so you learn to loop and roll in close formation. You then learn to move shapes whilst looping and then rolling. You tend not to, you stay, but you know, you're doing some fairly A-level manoeuvring whilst looping. And then you slowly build the 9-chip together, and then, you know, in your first work-up season, you're learning the second half manoeuvres, which are far more dynamic. And it is just, I cannot believe we're doing this. You know, some of the stuff, you know, we're going to now learn to do a caterpillar. Oh, well, you know, and then sure enough, you know, it's ropey, safe, but ropey on the first trip. By the 8th or 9th trip, it looks pretty good. Yeah. And then eventually you build, through probably, I guess, 5 months of really intense flying, a 9-chip display. And you know, we are so picky in the Red Arrows, and you know, but it's what it's about. You know, it's absolutely striving for perfection, so that every shape looks good, all the smokes are perfect. And then you move positions. I went from Red 2, 4, 8, and then bizarrely went back to Red 2 because one of the guys got sick, so I got a 4th year, and it was brilliant. You know, I loved every minute of it, and I can, you know, it's still very vivid. You know, I can think of Red Arrows and I see red aircraft wobbling around the skies, and you know it, but it just extraordinary that things you would do if you have 9, you know, hopefully fairly competent pilots who do the same thing day in, day out. It is amazing the level of professionalism and standard that you can achieve.
Yeah. So there's obviously so many manoeuvres that you do as a Red Arrow. What do you think is the best one? What was the one that you loved flying?
I mean, I guess in the first half, when you're a 9-chip, it would be some of the more when you're on the outside of the shapes. It was always good. In my second year, I was Red 4, but Red 4 was bizarrely at the back of a shape that we called Eagle. So you were right back, and it was quite a big shape. And we did a thing called a quarter clover, which is it's a loop with a twist in it. So it was just great big inputs that you would have to put in, and absolutely sort of full power, and then a little bit of idle and full power. And if you did any of those, you could so easily just drop off the back, and you know, even a 4-year-old child would go, that doesn't look good. So you felt the pressure, and it was so satisfying when I nailed that one, which luckily I did. I never fell off the back during that. And then in the second half, I guess when I was sort of Red 8, we used to do a load of different dynamic manoeuvres. The Jippo break was always good. You do crosses where you're pointing at each other, and you know, you never get bored. And some of the venues that we flew at, you know, we were so lucky. We did Canada in 02, and in 03 we went to the Far East, so we did loads of places on the way out. And just, you know, we did the Burj Al Arab Hotel in Dubai. You know, it's just like
amazing,
ridiculous. And then I suppose one of the most, probably really the most unforgettable moment, it was straight and level, but we did the Queen's Golden Jubilee on the wing of Concorde, and it was the last time that Concorde flew, you know, due to the accident, and then it went out. But it was magical. You know, that we knew that was a special time when we flew down the Mall. And you know, obviously you're very much concentrating on the, you know, I had a hawk inside of me, and then Concorde, you know, and you're just aware that that is Concorde and this is London that I'm flying over. And I sort of happened to look, you know, you're obviously concentrating on the formation references and absolutely nailing it. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of pictures of you. And if you're out, a million, billion people will see that you're out. So you're nailing that. But even in sort of in my peripheral vision, I can remember the time where central London must have looked and seen, here comes Concorde with the red arrows, because all the automatic flashes at the time, I guess there weren't quite so many cameras on the phones in '02, and it looked like London just lit up. It was just poof, this brilliant at the same time as a million flashes went off, and you could just see the whole Mall lit up. And you know, that sort of memory is just unbelievable. That, you know, that was great. And that, you know, to fly Concorde was just such a beautiful aircraft. You know, again, it's almost, I think, you know, you put Spitfire, maybe I think Concorde might come second in Parky's top 10. You know, it was just a fabulous bit of machinery, and big and powerful and elegant. You know, and that was a wonderful time. Yeah.
Obviously, this year is the centenary of the RAF, an incredible year, a very special year for the RAF.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are you taking part in any events at all this year?
Yeah, so we're having a Battle of Britain air show here at Headcorn, 30th of June, 1st of July, I think. So that'll be great. It's you know, you've seen the venue here. The runway is so close to where the aircraft take off, and it's grass, and it's real. You really get the vibe that you're back in the day. It's lovely, and a very sort of close air show compared to some of the huge air shows that you get. So hopefully there's some Messerschmitt 109s coming. There'll definitely be Spitfires, Hurricanes, and you know, we'll do tail chase, we'll do various bits, and fingers crossed I'll have the gun sight on, and I'll have a Messerschmitt 109 in the Spitfire gun sight, which always looks good as far as I'm concerned. Do Leeds Castle, which is just a great event. That's in July, and there's an orchestra that plays, and it's again one of those venues that it's just breathtaking. The castle is so fabulous, and touch wood, we've been so lucky. I've done, I think, the last 3 years, and it's been an amazing sunset. Yeah. And I don't think you even need a Spitfire there, but it just adds, and you know, even flying it, you're just aware of what a beautiful venue it is, and you know, hopefully the sound as well of the orchestra playing Spitfire Prelude, I think they do, whilst you know, I Loop and Roll is great. So yeah, it's a big year, the centenary. You know, I think the country should be very proud. You know, we had the first Air Force ever, you know, in the world, and it's the first one, obviously, that's now celebrating its centenary, 100 years. And you know, the RAF has always been, I think, like aviation is, at the cutting edge of technology, and you know what some of the old boys would have seen, you know, from biplanes. 20 years later we had jets, and 20 years after that we were going Mach 2. You know, it was such an incredible leap. And you know, even today, you know, if I showed you around a Typhoon, a Eurofighter Typhoon, you know, you'd be blown away just by the technology that's in that bit. It's just incredible, the machinery that man has built, and the RAF has always been up there with it. And yeah, it's 100 years on, and you know, we should look back at that 100 years, because what an amazing bit of history has happened
incredible.
then. Yeah,
really is incredible. Well, thank you, Anthony. It was really great to have a
Absolute
chat with
pleasure.
you. Real pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.